The airport buzzed with life-rolling suitcases, hurried footsteps, and voices blending into a steady hum. Overhead announcements crackled, directing travelers to their gates, while the rich scent of coffee filled the air. Among the crowd was Lina Carter, a 16-year-old with bright eyes and a quiet confidence. She walked through the terminal, gripping her carry-on bag, her heart pounding with excitement. Her father, Daniel Carter, had surprised her with a first-class ticket for her birthday, a reward for her hard work in school. The thought of sinking into a spacious seat, enjoying gourmet meals, and experiencing luxury for the first time felt like a dream. As she checked her boarding pass, her phone buzzed with a message from her dad. "Enjoy your first-class experience, sweetheart. You've earned it." Lina smiled, her fingers typing a quick reply. She had no idea her excitement would soon turn into a moment she'd never forget. Lina Carter gripped her boarding pass, her heart fluttering with excitement as she stepped toward the first-class section. She had dreamed of this moment, her first time sitting in luxury, a special birthday gift from her father. But just as she reached her seat, a voice stopped her in her tracks. A flight attendant, Megan, frowned as she looked Lina up and down. "Miss, first class is for premium passengers only," she said, her tone sharp. "If you don't have the correct ticket, you need to move." Confused, Lina held up her boarding pass. "This is my seat," she said, trying to stay polite. Megan barely glanced at it before crossing her arms. "Your dad bought this seat?" she repeated, her voice dripping with doubt. "Let's double-check with the gate agent." Nearby passengers started whispering, their curious eyes locking onto Lina. Heat crept up her cheeks as she hesitated. Had she done something wrong? Why was she being questioned? Megan sighed. "Fine, sit down for now," she said. "But if there's a mistake, you'll have to move." Lina lowered herself into the seat, gripping her armrest. The excitement she had felt just moments ago was already fading. Lina sat stiffly in her seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The whispers around her grew louder, and she could feel the weight of the passengers' stares. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with quiet judgment. The embarrassment burned deep. She had done nothing wrong, so why did it feel like she didn't belong? Megan's words echoed in her mind. The doubt in her voice, the way she questioned if Lina really had a first-class ticket. It wasn't just humiliating, it was frustrating. Her dad had given her this gift because she had earned it. Why was that so hard for people to believe? Lina reached for her phone, her thumb hovering over her dad's number. A part of her wanted to call him, to tell him what was happening. But then she remembered his words. "You belong wherever you choose to be. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise." Taking a deep breath, she decided to wait. If the flight attendant wanted to challenge her, she would let her father's actions speak for her. But as the minutes passed, doubt crept in. Had she made the right choice by staying silent? What if things got worse before her dad arrived? The tension in the cabin was thick, like something heavy hanging in the air. Lina stared out the window, her mind racing. She didn't know how much longer she could keep her calm. That's when the door to the cabin opened again. Lina's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just any passenger walking in, it was her dad. Mr. Carter stepped into the plane with an undeniable air of confidence. His sharp eyes scanned the room, and the moment they landed on Lina, she felt a rush of relief. She gave him a small, nervous smile. Mr. Carter walked down the aisle like he owned the place, his movements sure and steady. Megan turned to him, irritation still in her eyes, but a hint of confusion mixed in now. "Sir, we're just trying to sort out a seating issue," she said, trying to keep her voice polite. But Mr. Carter didn't stop. His gaze locked on hers, and it was clear he wasn't going to let this go. Carter stopped beside Lina and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. His presence filled the space, and for the first time that day, Lina felt a sense of calm. He turned to Megan, his voice even but firm. "What's going on here?" Megan hesitated, her eyes darting between him and Lina. "We're just handling a seating issue," she said, trying to sound professional but clearly rattled. Mr. Carter didn't flinch. "A seating issue?" he repeated, his tone steady. "This is my daughter, and her boarding pass says she belongs here. What's the problem?" The cabin went quiet. Megan's face turned pale as she tried to process his words. She didn't have an answer. Without saying another word, she turned and walked away, leaving the cabin filled with a tense silence. Lina couldn't help but smile slightly. Her dad had just taken control of the situation without raising his voice. The tension in the cabin seemed to lift as Mr. Carter turned to Lina, his expression softening. He crouched down next to her, his voice gentle. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked, his concern clear. Lina nodded, though her voice wavered. "I'm fine, Dad." "But why do people always judge so quickly?" Mr. Carter gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Some people just don't see beyond their own assumptions, Lina. But today, they learned something important." He stood up straight and turned toward the rest of the passengers. "I'll remind all of you," he said, his voice steady and loud, "never to assume you know someone's story just by the way they look or what you think you know. Everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are." The cabin fell silent as his words hung in the air. A man in a suit across the aisle cleared his throat and spoke up. "I just want to apologize, Mr. Carter," he said, his voice shaky. "We should have spoken up earlier." A woman from a row ahead chimed in. "She's lucky to have a dad like you." Lina smiled, feeling a quiet sense of pride welling up inside her. As the plane soared through the sky, Lina stared out the window, watching the clouds drift by. The earlier tension had melted away, replaced by a quiet sense of pride. She glanced at her father, who sat beside her, his posture relaxed but thoughtful. "Thanks for standing up for me, Dad," Lina said softly, her voice full of gratitude. Mr. Carter smiled and placed a hand on her arm. "I'll always stand up for you, Lina. But you did something even more important today. You stood up for yourself. You didn't let anyone make you feel like you didn't belong." Lina nodded, feeling her confidence grow with his words. "I just wish people wouldn't judge so quickly." Mr. Carter leaned forward, his voice steady. "People will always judge, whether it's right or wrong. What matters is how you handle it. Every time you rise above it, you show them how to be better." Just then, a flight attendant from another section came by and placed a fresh glass of water on Lina's tray with a kind smile. "We're sorry for the trouble," she said. Lina took a sip, feeling the sense of vindication sink in.